Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for the Season 2 premiere of Bates Motel. Yes, Bates Motel is finally back, and I'm really happy that it's back. Season 2, Episode 1, Gone But Not Forgotten, which was the perfect title for this episode because of what this episode was all about. Now, I do want to clarify something with the finale. One, I was really looking forward to this premiere. I thought it was going to be really amazing. The finale led us to believe that Norman killed Miss Watson. That's what they led us to believe. They led us to believe he killed Miss Watson because she was wearing the pearl necklace. She was wearing a pearl necklace and everything, and her throat was slit. So we were to believe that he killed her. So I was really looking forward to seeing where it was going to go from here. However, in this episode, that might not necessarily be true. However, Norman definitely did do something to her, or something bad happened to her. We don't really know, but let's just get to this episode. In my opinion, I thought this was a great premiere. I'm really looking forward to seeing where they're going with this, and I just thought it was a really, really good premiere. Was it as good as the finale? No, but I still think it was a great premiere, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where they're going from here. So Norman's in bed. All of a sudden, he wakes up, the phone rings, and Norma gets a call from the principal and tells her that Mrs. Watson was murdered and there will be no school on Monday. Right away, she figures this out. Now, this is going by pretty fast, I'm just going to say. This is the next day, by the way. This is supposed to be the next day after he's murdered Miss Watson. And Norma asks Norman what happened the night before when Miss Watson was supposed to give him a drive home. And Norman says he doesn't remember, he just remembers running home. Norman asks Norma why. She tells him that Mrs. Watson is dead, and somebody killed her. So then we're at her funeral, and it's raining. Norman's very upset. You can definitely see he's very upset for killing her, and Norma tries to console Norman. So then, later at home, Norman's staring by the window. Norma tells him that he has to eat something. Norman says she was so kind, and he can't imagine why someone would want to hurt her. And Norman asks Norma who would do such a thing. She says not his problem. Norman's then seen twirling Miss Watson's pearls in his hand. Here's where they're basically leading us to believe that he killed her. But I kind of like the foreshadowing here. However, the writers kind of tricked us in this episode, and I'll get to that. Now then we see Bradley. Now Bradley's plot is not a separate plot because it does connect with the other stuff. Bradley, as we know, she wants to find out more about her father. Bradley, this was very strange. This basically came out of nowhere. She's in a car. She looks a wreck. She's very just completely pale and very wrecked. She does not look like she's in good shape at all. She gets off the car, swerve, then jumps off a cliff into a bridge. And that's literally how the episode started. I'm like, what? Why did Bradley just kill herself? Are they really going to kill off Bradley? No, they did not kill off Bradley. However, I didn't really know what was going to happen there with Bradley. So then we go 4 months later, and I'm like, what? Why are we going 4 months later? It didn't really make sense to me at first. However, now I understand. It's more of us getting to see the development of the Bates Motel. Also for us to see the changes, so they can make it this year. The changes in the show. And I do really like that. Norma at this point is actually pretty happy. She's wearing this very bright yellow colored dress. She has her hair, she has cut her hair, looks happy, and she heads to the office to look for Norman, but he's not there. And honestly, I like seeing this. I like seeing Norma happy, because most times we see Norma, the last time we saw Norma, she was so upset, She had just gotten done telling Norman about the whole thing with her brother, trying to have sex with her, which, by the way, I still love that plot. I love the way that went in the finale. That was so good. And her defeating Abernathy. Those two big things that she did. Now she's, completely happy and everything. However, the one thing that she's not happy about is that Norman is nowhere to be found at the office. Emma wants to go look for him. But Norma goes on her own. She's performing and Norman now has a new job. He is now performing taxidermy on an animal. And Norma finds him and tells him to stop doing what he's doing and go serve some customers. Now, it's supposed to be the summer right now, so you'd think he'd be having some fun, going out with his friends, going to see movies, going out to, a lake or something, just having fun. It's summertime. Take the summer off. This is Norman Bates we're talking about, though. He's gonna be creepy. It's not gonna be a good summer for him. He's definitely not having a very good summer at all, I don't think. Definitely, if I had to pick a good summer, that would not, you know, that's not really the definition of a good summer at all. I don't think he's having a good summer. Because what ends up happening from here is Norma doesn't like what Norman's doing. She tells him that he's spending too much time in the basement and he needs to spend time with people. I like the taxidermy stuff because I have not seen the movie Psycho, but apparently that connects to the movie Psycho, and I kind of like that. I thought that was pretty good. And then we see Emma, who was barely in the episode, may I add. That was my only complaint in this episode, was I wanted to see a little bit more Emma. I really liked Emma and Norman in the first season. I hope they continue that development between the two of them, because they had some genuine chemistry in Season 1, and I really hope that continues in this season. However, we do know that Norman is still in love with Bradley. We do know that. She hands Norman a stack of letters that were returned from Bradley, and, returned from Bradley, and looks like he sent them to her. Norman says he was just worried about Bradley after the accident. Emma gets angry, tells him it wasn't an accident, she jumped off the bridge. Emma then tells Norman that Bradley is going to be released from the hospital, and he says he is glad she's better. Bradley at this point, though, still not in good shape. She's now smoking a cigarette. Her mom walks in, and it's just, you can see that her life has basically gone to shit. And, it has. Because I'm assuming, like, her boyfriend probably broke up with her after he found out the whole Norman thing. You know, in the finale, he beat up Norman. And that's the whole thing that happened in the finale, was he beat up Norman. And what I'm thinking in that happened there was that after that, Bradley's boyfriend probably broke up with her. But it doesn't matter, because as we know, Bradley likes Dylan. But then in the kitchen, speaking of Dylan, Dylan walks in, hands Norma a stack of money for rent. She says she doesn't want it because she knows where he gets it. Norma's in the car with Norman. They start to get into it. So you still see friction between Dylan and Norma. Even though it seemed like it was getting a little bit better for them in the finale, it's not getting better for them. They still have their friction, and I think that's just something that's going to continue in the show. It's a dark show. What do you expect? Norma's in the car with Norman. They start to get into an argument over Norman's driving. Norman takes Norman to Mrs. Watson's grave. Norman gets upset and tells him to get over it. Just his teacher, not a friend or a relative. By the way, Vera Farmiga, great acting from her in this episode. Some really great scenes with her character. Really proves how great of an actor she is. She has gotten so comfortable with this role. Honestly, I think when we're going to think of Vera Farmiga further down the line, we're going to think of her as Norma Bates. She is that good in this role. She was, like, born to play this role, I think. You know, Norman gets frustrated, tells Norman to drive, and they're going home. So Norman's on her bed, on the computer, and Norman tells Norman that, you know, and, let's do the subplot. But then we see Bradley. She goes to see Gill, who worked with her dad, and asks who killed her father. He says he doesn't know that then he invites her inside, says that he will tell her more. She decides to walk away and not take him up on his father. Bradley is now 10 home, going through some of her father's things. Bradley finds her father's gun, points it at her face, basically ready to end her life at this point, because she's ready to end her life. It didn't work with her before, so I thought she was actually going to try to kill herself again. But she's startled because her mother knocks on the door, tells her that Norman is there to see her, and Norman tells Bradley that he wrote to her every single day. She says she knows. Bradley tells Norman that she's doing fine, and Norman tells her that she heard she tried to kill herself. Furthermore, he wants her to know that she can always speak to him as a friend. What I kind of like this season that they're doing Bradley is they kind of made her this spoiled little rich girl in the first season, and they're really giving her development and a lot more reason to care for Bradley, which I really like. Because I wanted to see that in the first season, but we really didn't get enough of that. So then Norman goes to Sheriff Romero. He tells him that they took pictures of the man beside Mrs. Watson's grave, and Sheriff Romero then asks Norman some questions, like does he ever go to her grave a lot, which we know he does, and if he ever visited her house. And he's continually doing this, and we really don't know why. So Norman's at the meeting. She proposes that they stop construction on the bypass. Oh, I'll get to that when we get to the subplot. Bradley meets with Dylan, tells her that she heard she talked to Gill, and Dylan says her father, and it wasn't smart. He tells her to stay away from the whole operation. Bradley says she will stay away when she finds out who killed her father. And Dylan reveals her some really important information here. Now, you know how I said they were implying that Norman killed Mrs. Watson? that's kind of aborted after this scene. Because Dylan says that her father was sleeping with Miss Watson and she was Gill's girlfriend. So Bradley asks Dylan why she didn't answer any of her emails, and he says that his brother likes her and there are certain lines you don't cross. So what this leads us to believe is that Gill could have killed her father. Definitely. That could have happened. Norma meets up with Sheriff Romero in town. He tells her that, you know, Norman wanted to see him and gave him a photo of a man at Mrs. Watson's grave. They both agree that Norman has to get over his obsession with Mrs. Watson. And that's what Norma tries to do. And by the way, really amazing scene we're getting here. Because Norma heads home, confronts Norman. She tells him that it needs to stop. He's obsessed with Miss Watson's death, and she wants to know why. And we find out what happened to Norman here. Because Norman tells Norma that he went to Mrs. Watson's house, felt weird, like she was attached to him. It felt wrong, but no wrong. As we know, she tried to seduce him. And that's all he remembers. All he remembers is that he blacked out, and then he ran home. That's all he remembers. He blacked out, and he can't remember what happened after that. So Norman tells him that she tried to seduce him, and he ran away because he knew it was... Norman tells her that she tried to seduce him, and he ran away because he knew it was wrong, and he's a good boy. So that's all he really knows at this point. We really don't know what else is going to happen there, and I'm really interested in seeing what else is going to happen there. Then we get probably the biggest game-changing moment of the episode between Gill and Bradley. I did not know what was going to happen here. Honestly, I thought Bradley was, like, gonna... I don't know. Because Bradley comes to talk to Gill. Gill offers her a drink, asks if she thought about their little talk, and Bradley starts coming on to Gill. Then asks him if that is what he wanted. He says he's good so far. And Gill goes to sit on the couch. Bradley tells him that it's not easy being a girl without a father. Bradley then sits on top of Gill. Secretly, she's, you know, getting information. It kind of reminds me a little bit about the Americans. You know how they, like, have sex with people to get information? That's kind of what Bradley was doing. She was about to give him oral sex. She was about to do that. But before she did that, took out a gun and just, she said, you know, she basically says, she shoots him right in the head, and Bradley's a murderer. Bradley's a murderer now. How do I feel about Bradley being a murderer? I like this. I really do. Again, they're giving us more reason to care for Bradley, and I really like that about her character. You know, in the first season, I didn't like her too much at the end. Now, I really appreciate her character more. I like where they're going with her character, and I like the change in Bradley in this episode. They really got to care for her more. And then the episode ends with her waking up Norman, and she's in his bedroom, as if he meant when he said that he would be there for her, because now more than ever she needs him. And that's how the episode ends. Honestly, I thought that scene was amazing, and I really loved it. Now, the one thing that I did not like about this episode, that I thought was kind of unnecessary, was this subplot with Norma. Not much going on here. All she finds out is that, remember in the very beginning of the show, with the construction workers and the compound, and them trying to basically build it on top of the hotel, and she didn't think it would get made? It's starting to get, the compound is starting to get made now. You know, it's not really good. She's on her bed. You know, Norma reminds him that they will be able to make this motel successful. And, I mean, it was a good plot, but I just felt for this episode it was a little unnecessary. I didn't really understand it. However, the rest of the episode I absolutely loved. I can't find many problems with this episode. A couple things I do want to talk about. One, what happened with Norman and Miss Watson? We know now that he probably did not kill her. Gill's probably the one who did it. If Gill's not the one who did it, then Bradley's going to be, like, in jail now. Do you like where they're going with Bradley's storyline? I really do. I kind of think they're going to try to get her and Norman back together. I liked Emma and Norman, but I kind of see them now more as friends, especially with the change in Bradley. Now I'd actually want Bradley and Norman together. We do see that she likes Dylan, but Dylan told her straight out that Norman loves her. You know, he doesn't want to cross that bridge with Bradley, and I like that Dylan's a supportive brother. So did Gill really kill Miss Watson? Do you really think he did it? Or did Norman do it? We're really not sure at this point. What did Norman do? How does he have the pearl necklace? I want to know that as well. Why does he have the pearl necklace? Did you like the plot with Norma? I thought it was a little silly. But honestly, great episode. Both Vera Farmiga and Freddie Highmore gave great performances in this episode, and the girl that played Bradley gave a great performance as well. Did you like the lack of Emma? I thought there was one thing that I didn't like. I did not like the lack of Emma. But that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Pretty Little Liars. So, see you then. Bye.